All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our eighth live show of the season. I'm Cooper. I'm here along with CJ, and Trent should be joining shortly. We'll see. That's always the case. He's eating steaks tonight, so big night at the Adams household on a Thursday. Um, but today we're going to be going over the Week 8 slate, going over some of the biggest games and upsets. We'll be looking at Week 9, previewing that, going over some games and picking them. And we'll go over some other stuff too, like the AP poll and Billy Napier getting fired. Crazy. So we're going to be doing all that. But first, CJ, how you doing today?
Oh, freaking great. Billy Napier's fired. It's just a great day. So
What you got against Billy Napier?
I don't know. I had my call at the beginning of the year. He was going to get fired.
Yep.
If they didn't go 9-3 this year, he was getting the chopping block, and he got that chopping block.
Okay. Well, we'll
I
talk
know
about that
why.
more. Okay. Well, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But first, we're going to go over all of the games that we thought were notable in Week 8, and that one that we're first going to go over is Ole Miss at Georgia, 43-35. Big game for Georgia, kind of just offensively, showing that they have life. And big day from Gunnar Stockton, 26 for 31, 289, four touchdown passes. He had 59 rushing yards along with that. Big day from him. And really, the story of the game was that, at least for me, it felt like that Ole Miss just couldn't put Georgia down, and this offense was incredible from Georgia. They scored on, I believe, every single drive of this game, whether that be a field goal or a touchdown. It was just an amazing show of offensive firepower from this team. And I mean, the first five drives of the game for Ole Miss, they scored a touchdown every single time, and then from that, they still can't win. It's incredible. But amazing work from this Georgia defense to show up at the end and make some stops. You look at it, the rushing comparisons of this game: 221 from Georgia, 88 from Ole Miss. Ole Miss just could not get anything going in this ground game. It was a bad game on the ground for them. They had one, I believe, one big rushing play at some point in during this game. But I mean, it really just was a bad game rushing wise from this team. And so, I mean, when you take that into account, and you also need to take into account that this team really cannot stop anybody. They have a really bad defense. They had, I believe, the 66th best defense in the country, and for an SEC team, that is really bad. Their defense is lacking. When you put it all on Trinidad Chambliss, at the end of the day, I don't think you can get it done. Um, this Georgia team looked a lot more well-rounded, and even I don't think this is one of the best Georgia teams we've seen. They're still really a big threat in the SEC and still can win the conference. Another interesting note is you look at the time of possession in this game. Georgia 37 minutes, 39 seconds to Ole Miss's 22. They controlled this game offensively. I mean, you look at it, and Ole Miss, like I said, they had an impressive first five drives, but Georgia had a more consistent offense. They just had a stronger, um, I felt, presence throughout this game. And Gunnar Stockton, he's more of a Stetson Bennett type, I would say. He's not a, he's never going to be like a pro level prospect. I feel like he's not going to be a first round draft pick, but he gets it done. He's able to get it done and really just win games for this team. And that's what I was really impressed by from this Georgia offense. So that's what I got from this game. CJ, do you have anything to add to that?
I think you said it best. It's just hard to win big games in the SEC when your defense can't stop the bleeding. It just makes it really tough on your offense. After they did score on the first five consecutive drives of this game, offense came out swinging. It was powerful. They hit on all cylinders. Just looking for more consistency in the second half of play. But yeah, just they're 66th best ranked defense, and they dropped 3 spots in the rankings. But honestly, if they come back better next week, just with a more sound defense, which they've been struggling with all year, they should be better.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, it's on the road. I mean, it's a tough win any time on the road in the SEC. And so, I mean,
Yeah,
you don't want to really take away from Georgia's win, but I mean, they were playing at home. I think, you know, you play at Ole Miss. I mean, this was an incredibly close. I mean, this was a close game until the end. This was
yeah,
a
just an
really
old
good
fashioned
game. I
shootout.
think.
Just
I
lack
mean,
of defense happened to have
yep.
them lose.
Yeah, I mean, this could have gone a different way if it was played, but you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So I think Ole Miss, looking at the rest of their schedule, it looks pretty favorable. They have a big game against Oklahoma at Oklahoma this week. But other than that, they have South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, Mississippi State. I think this is a very manageable schedule for them. They got past LSU. They and I mean, really looking at it as a whole, the schedule has been pretty easy for them. So I still think that the playoffs are definitely in sight. And this is really just a good. I think this is one of the games, and like I really don't like the playoff format. And this is one of the reasons why. It's just because it kind of takes away from what a good game this could have been in a 14 playoff format where, you know, you look at it and there's a lot of stakes. There's really not a lot of stakes when you look at it because of the fact that, I mean, these teams are both probably going to make the playoffs. They might meet again. I mean, this loss really is kind of just a tune-up game for the playoffs for Ole Miss because now they're starting to play more teams that have that level of competition that they're going to have to face 2 or 3 times in the playoffs to make the national championship and win. So I think that's a sad fact of the playoff is that there's not as much, you know, added um, what's the word, added stakes to it. But this was a big game though for Georgia, who if they lost this game, they go down to 2 losses, and then they kind of have to stay perfect the rest of the year. So big game for Georgia. We'll see how these teams fare the rest of the year, but I do like Ole Miss's chances the rest of the year playoff wise. All right, so we will now move on to the third Saturday in October, one of the biggest games on the SEC schedule any year. And this year it was as well. Number 11 Tennessee going up against number 6 Alabama. Final score of this game being 37-20. So CJ, I'm going to start with you on this one. See if you have any thoughts on this game.
So I watched this one on the plane. Honestly, we didn't start out bad. Um, it was a we lost this game at halftime, if I can keep it short and frank. Um, the call to pass the ball out of a condensed run formation on the goal line, running a condensed smash concept to the weak side of the field is not my best choice. I would have just ran the ball. Um, but throwing that pick did cause us to lose the football game. We didn't play a bad game up until then. Struggled to punch it in the end zone a little bit. Our defense was getting ran down the field a little bit, a couple times too. But if we just have a better decision making right there, play call wise in the red zone before half, I think any other outcome right there in the red zone leads us to a maybe not a win, but a better outcome of the ball game. So just
Okay.
sucks.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that play call there at the end of the half. I also would agree with you that they really could not finish drives. It felt like there were a lot of missed opportunities um, from Tennessee. It felt like, and especially at that halfway point, the middle 8 is what they call it, and that was a big turning point for this Alabama team, and something that was I was interested to see heading into heading out of halftime when they went up, what was it, 23-7? They is that I wanted to see if they could keep the pedal to the metal in the second half. That was something that Alabama's kind of struggled with um, in these last couple games against Georgia. They weren't really able. They had to hold Georgia scoreless in the second half to win. They struggled against Missouri in the second half, and they kept let Missouri stay in the ball game when really they shouldn't have. If you look at it, um, and so this was a game that really I felt was going to be Tennessee with how good their offense was, I think they could have got back into it if Alabama played lackluster in the second half, but they didn't. They played absolutely phenomenal throughout the game, and they really had a bad night rushing the ball. If you look at it, first off, Ty Simpson going 19 for 29, 253, 2 touchdowns. That's all you really need from him. This wasn't even really a spectacular night from him, but he's still able to get the job done. He's certainly at least up there in the Heisman conversations right now. And then you look at J.M. Miller, who was a key aspect to this game. He only went 12 rushes for 15 yards. He did get a touchdown, but just Alabama not able to run the ball really whatsoever this game, and they're still able to tack on 37 points. They're still able to get 30 points offensively. It's really impressive. And this team's really looking like a complete opposite from what they showed in week one. Very, very impressed. I'm very impressed with this team, just on how they're able to on the defensive side of the ball, but also in their front five, offensive on their offensive line. Just how they were able to keep Ty Simpson clean, how they were able to let him make plays, and I felt like that was really important, especially because they could not run the ball this game. If Tennessee was able to get to Ty Simpson, this could have been a whole different ball game. But
It could
you
have
look at
been
Tennessee.
just too many,
Yeah,
way too many explosive plays through the air that ultimately
yeah,
cost us to lose.
yeah. I mean,
Sucks.
Jeremy Bernard being your lead rusher with 49 yards. That's just, if you would have told me that Alabama was only going to have 120 yards rushing and 3.8 yards per carry, like I would have said this could be a really difficult game for them to win. But just kind of shocking to see how lackluster Tennessee was offensively. It felt like in this game, even though Deshaun Bishop going 14 rushes, 123 yards, and I mean Joey Aguilar, still not doing horrible. Just wasn't able to do a whole lot um, with how it all went. Um, he still had 268 yards passing, one touchdown, one interception, but Allen was able to get to him. And I think when your offense isn't as great, you need that defense. You need that you need that backup. And Tennessee was able to have that last year, not able to have that this year, unfortunately. And it feels like every single year they're either out of offense or they're out of defense. 2022, they weren't as good defensively as they were offensively, and then the last 2 years, it's felt like their offense has kind of been behind, and now this year, it's back to being their defense. It's just kind of the question of when will this all come together? It feels like for Tennessee. Um, and time will only tell. But I think next year's going to be very interesting for them. But this definitely isn't the end of Tennessee's season. But it's definitely still going to be hard to get to the playoffs. It feels like with two conference losses. You look at it, they still have to play Oklahoma. Granted, that would be at home, and they do have to play Vanderbilt. And so those are the two games you got to win one of those. I
And we
feel like
will
if
be
you
on
lose
site
both,
for the Vanderbilt game. Just
we will
saying.
be on site for the Vanderbilt game. Might even do an on-site podcast. Who knows?
Oh,
We'll see.
oh,
Um,
wait.
but
Yeah, that is
we
true.
could
Yeah.
do that. So we'll see what happens. Um, but we'll see. Um, so, but I mean, you kind of look at it, and you've got two top 15 teams. We'll see what happens if Oklahoma beats Ole Miss. But like this is really important for them to win one of those two games, and then you also can't skip over the Florida game, where they're playing at Florida, which I don't believe they won the Swamp in what 20 years, 30 years. Look
Yeah,
that up and
it's
fact check
close.
me, but it's been a while, so you can't even look over that game. Um, so it's really just going to be it's really tough, and this was kind of the game I felt like if Tennessee was going to make the playoffs and make a run in the playoffs, this was the game for them to win. But Alabama has just looked amazing ever since the Florida State game, and it's unfortunate that's been how it's gone for Tennessee. So we'll see how they fare the rest of the season. But Alabama looking really good, and I mean, right now, you could place a bet on them to win the national championship. It feels like because I don't think there's another team in the country who has a resume that Alabama does right now. So we'll see the rest of the way, but really impressive start for them. All right. Next up, we are going to my favorite game of the week. Um, number 10 LSU versus number 16 Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt ends up winning this game 31-24 at home. And it's really the story of this game was how well Vandy played on both sides of the ball, it felt like for me. They were able defensively, that was the main question for me is LSU's not that great defensively or offensively. How are they going to be able to win this game? And if they're going to win this game, it's going to be by stopping LSU offensively. And that happened, it felt like. I mean, they gave up one big play, but the rest of the way, their defense really stood up tall. The first half was really a back and forth of LSU going down the field, either kicking a field goal or scoring a touchdown, and Vanderbilt doing the same. And so it was really an offensive battle, and it was the question of which defense is going to rise up. And Vanderbilt was able to do that. But really, the main story that's going to come out of this is Diego Pavia, what he was able to do today. He went 14 for 22, 160 yards, a touchdown. He had 86 rushing yards as well and two touchdowns, two big rushing touchdowns to kind of seal this game at the end of it. But just an amazing performance from him and this Vandy rushing attack, 239 yards rushing overall by Vandy. And I just love what Vanderbilt's doing offensively because they can mix. They can just do a whole lot. They can do triple option. They can do speed option. They can do just simple run plays. They can do anything through the air really that they want to. It really just the whole playbook is very open, and when you look at them, it's very hard to defend. And I mean, you look at the Alabama game. If they're able to finish in the red zone on a couple of their drives and not give the ball away, that's a lot closer of a game. And I mean, I know that's just saying that, but I mean, really, that's what they did here against LSU and showing that they could beat a top 10 team. That's what they did. They showed up. They finished when they needed to. They were able to have good 2-minute drills and really this was just the most polished version of Vanderbilt yet, and it's really scary because there's still 6 weeks left in the season. So I think Vanderbilt's looking really good. Vanderbilt controlled this game 36 minutes and 31 seconds compared to 23 minutes and 29 seconds. Vanderbilt had the time of possession on their side this game. They limited LSU to 100 rushing yards, which really put a lot of the load on Garrett Nussmeier. And you saw by the end of the game, he wasn't able to hold that up anymore. It was really just a really solid performance from Vanderbilt, a really entertaining game because for most of the game, this was close and this was back and forth, and then it became kind of a defensive struggle at the end. I don't think the first punt happened until the fourth quarter. So just a really impressive game from Vanderbilt. And I think LSU's biggest fault here is that they just can't move the ball offensively, it seems like, against good defenses. And I think when your defense can't hold up the other end of the bargain, that's what's going to lead to your downfall. And LSU's got a really good defense. We've seen it multiple times. I'm not going to take away the Clemson game, which at the time Clemson was a top 5 team. You look at the Ole Miss game, they limited them to 24 points. It's just their offense isn't able to pick up the other end of the load. And so I think that's LSU's biggest problem is offense. And I think that would be a shock to some people coming into the season because they hear the name Garrett Nussmeier and they hear Brian Kelly and they're like, oh, this is going to be a great offense. But I mean, it wasn't really a shock to me. So I think, again, LSU just not able to produce offensively, and they've just kind of looked stagnant over the last 2 years offensively. They've looked the same, it felt like. So Yeah, I think that's what I got from this game. CJ, do you have anything you would like to add?
Speaking of LSU and their stagnant offense for the past 2 or 3 years, I just think the fit with Brian Kelly hasn't really worked out, and it might be just time to move on. But that's a conversation for another day. But I will say,
Take.
picking Vandy to win this game didn't really feel like picking the upset. I just felt like Vandy was the better team, and that their offense running through Diego Pavia runs so well, and they get everyone involved in that offense, and it just two rushing touchdowns and one passing touchdown from Diego on the day. It was just a great all-around performance from Vandy.
Yeah, I mean, Vandy was favored in this game. I believe it was only a point and a half, but I mean, I didn't really feel like I was picking a crazy pick with Vanderbilt. I
Yeah,
think the Missouri game this week's going to be even more bold of a take to pick Vanderbilt. So
yeah.
a lot of
Vanderbilt all
work. I
along has felt
feel.
like a top 10 team.
Yeah. Um, I think if you switch out their name with LSU, if it's just a bunch of, I feel like, name bias. I feel like, especially with the rankings, it's just in preseason expectations. I feel like, but that's the issue. But I think Vanderbilt looks really good right now. We'll see how they fare the rest of the year. They've got a couple big games, but they're definitely in the playoff contention. And I think if they finish the year with one loss, they're in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But um, that's very exciting for me, at least, because I would love to see Vanderbilt in the playoffs. But we'll see. All right, now up to our final game that we're going to talk about from week number 8. Biggest upset of the week, and it came on a Friday night. Louisville beating Miami 24-21 in a shocker, because up to this point, Miami, in my opinion, has looked like the most solid team out there um, in college football, and they've had some really impressive wins to back it up. Um, but the, but this time it did not show against Louisville. CJ, do you have anything that you would like to say about this game before I start?
Um, I will say I didn't get to watch much of this game, but I did watch enough to see Carson Beck throw 4 picks, and it's kind of alarming because, like, other than the 4 picks, he was fairly accurate in this game, 25 for 35 with 271. Just Alabama, I mean, not Alabama. Miami couldn't get anything going in this game. 63 yards rushing, just not clicking at all. But then, yeah, Carson Beck playing probably the worst game of his collegiate football career. Um, as we said, I mean, why do I keep saying Alabama? Miami looked like the most promising team in the country. They looked probably like the number one seed for our for the playoff, and then everything just went out of the door this game. We do have to credit Louisville though for an amazing game. Just a great game on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree on the defensive performance from Louisville. It was spectacular. But I'll start off with the offense first. They got off to a hot start. 14
Miller
points in the first
Moss.
first in the first quarter. They had 14 points. Miller Moss going 23 for 37, 248, and 2 touchdowns. Um, Really good game from him, and a really good game from Chris Bell. 9 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's the star wide receiver. He's one of the best receivers in college football, and really scary kind of to see how bad Miami has fared against good receivers um, so far this year. Um, that's just something to kind of put in your back of your mind, because I still think this team's going to make the playoffs. I think we've seen every single year how teams like this will fall to another team. So I think that Miami, for right now, I think is still going to make the playoffs. But that's just something to keep in mind when they play tougher competition. Is how are they going to fare against? How's their secondary going to fare? I don't think their secondary is very good. And you kind of saw that in this game. Isaac Brown, a running back that I really like as well, went 15 carries for 113 yards. Really, just the offense was kind of clicking for Louisville um, in the first quarter. In the second quarter, Miami kind of shut that down, and it really was kind of peaks and valleys for um, Miami, where you would see something that would be really good from them, and then you would see something really horrible from them. And on the other side of it, it felt like Louisville started off really, really great, and then kind of just teetered out the rest of the game. And they were really trying to get something out of this, and make sure that they got the win. Um, and it really felt like Miami had all the opportunity in the world to win this game. The amount of stuff that had to come together for this to happen for Louisville is kind of crazy. Four interceptions, like you said, from Carson Beck, that's crazy just in and of itself. But then you tack on, all of what else happened. I mean, that last minute interception or from Louisville, where it seemed like Miami was at least going to put it into overtime, or possibly just win it because of how good their offense is looking at the end of the game. Um, how Miami was able to get that fumble after Carson Beck throws his third interception. Miami's defense still showed very good signs. I believe the front seven is still really good. I mean, if you just there was so much that had to go in, but I think a thing that contributed to Louisville winning this game was how they were able to shut down the running game from Miami. I feel like that was one of the biggest reasons why Carson Beck threw four interceptions, because he was forcing the ball a little too much in the first half. When he threw those two interceptions, he was clearly forcing the ball downfield, trying to get a big play, trying to rev up the offense. And luckily, those didn't really add up to anything because Louisville just could not get anything going off of those turnovers, which was another big thing. Was that I believe Louisville did not have any points off of turnovers this game, which is another thing that's like
Yeah,
insane.
this was just an all
Um,
around crazy game. I think something that really like just sticks out. Carson Beck's draft stock really doesn't drop from this game just because of like I would say them not being able to run the football at all. It really just stands out as to how much Miami really had to throw the ball this game and how much stuff had to get forced downfield just to look for an explosive play since they didn't have it in the run game.
yeah. And I mean, another thing to consider is just Louisville's a pretty good team. Like Miller Moss, I think is
Yeah.
really solid. I think they have good weapons around him, and their defense is pretty good too. Their only loss being to, I believe, Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's not bad either. I mean, if you're not watching the ACC, you're missing out on some really good
No,
teams.
you're
I
not.
feel like, yes, you
No.
are.
I'd
Quit it.
say I'd say this the
Quit it with
ACC is
your SEC
relatively good
bias.
to in its conference. This is no bias.
I think
The
there's some
SEC
solid
has just
teams
been
in here.
better. You
Well,
said
I'm
what?
not. I'm not claiming that the SEC is just the ACC is just as good as the SEC. I'm just saying that there's some pretty good teams in the
Yeah,
ACC.
I mean, if you're a
Um,
college football fan and you're not watching the ACC, I agree. You probably are a little bit of a dork, but
yeah,
hey,
I mean Louisville's really good. Pitt's been really solid over the last couple of weeks. Wake Forest, SMU. You've got
all
Duke.
right, you're
I
reaching
mean, there's
a
a
little bit.
lot of no, 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 no. I'm not.
I am excited to see
And
who
then
will
we're
be in
and
the
then we're
ACC
missing out on.
championship.
I think Virginia's got a good shot too. I mean, they just struggled against Washington State, but I mean, you look at them and there's a really good shot that they can make the ACC championship. And when
There's
games
a
like
shot that
this,
Virginia makes a playoff. We live in a world where Virginia and Tony Elliott could
that could
make a playoff spot.
where Virginia and Vanderbilt could make the
Yeah,
playoffs.
and
That
if
is
you would have
insane.
told us that 2 years ago,
Tony Elliott,
Tony Elliott.
gotta
I mean,
love him. Gotta love him. His offensive genius. No, 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 no. Louisville lost to Virginia. That's who they lost to.
yeah,
But
and
okay, sorry,
Tony
that's my
Elliott,
bad.
I was saying probably 3 or 4 weeks ago that I liked him better and under the Clemson offensive coordinator role, and he just proved me wrong.
And he's,
He
he's
just keeps
doing his
saying,
thing.
yeah.
He's doing his thing. Um, but I mean, to kind of put a wrap on this game, it's just kind of really impressive to see what Louisville did, but also Miami's still a really good team. The takeaway from this game shouldn't be, I feel like, that Miami is dead in the water and they're not going to make the playoffs and they're overrated. Like this was just a really like crazy set of circumstances where you get the +4 in the turnover box for Louisville, and you also get a bad rushing night, and you also get the added just kind of boost to start where Miami's kind of dragging their feet. It's a Friday night game at home where they're like, oh, we're playing Louisville. They just played Notre Dame and Florida State on the road, and they're playing all these tough games, and then they have to come in and play Louisville, who they probably overlooked. There's just a lot of things to kind of that kind of go against Miami just being bad. And so
Miami's better than what they
if
showed.
yes, yes, I agree. I think now if next week or the next game they play, if they lose that one, then I mean I don't wouldn't know what to say, but I
I
do
mean, yeah,
believe that
if they
Miami
lose to Stanford at home, then
they lose to Stanford at home.
yeah, that'd
Florida
be
State lost to
very
Stanford
alarming.
at home.
But they play basically
Or
nobody for the rest of the year. They play SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt. Pitt's decent.
yeah. The only
Pitt's pretty
thing
good.
is they don't have a bye week in between any of those games. So I feel like
I
that
think
could give
them
you
not having a bye week kind of helps them because they get into a groove. Them having their bye
yeah,
week early kind of helps them out.
yeah. All right. Well, so that is going to wrap it up for that game. So that's going to go ahead and wrap us up for all of those games. We will now go into the AP poll summary. So we will go ahead and pull up the AP poll and kind of look at some of the rankings here, and we will start off with Ohio State. Still being number one. They really haven't done anything to prove that they're not number one, but kind of in my opinion, I feel like they haven't proved anything to be number one. It feels like
I think
there's a lot of
everybody
other
should feel that way, but because of like they haven't proved anything that they have not deserved to be number one, they have the sole purpose of like they haven't proved us like otherwise, so let's just keep them at number one. And I'm fine
yeah.
with that.
I am fine with. I mean, I'm fine with that. Um, I think Ohio State being number one is okay. I do think maybe Indiana should get number one because they have a better resume, but you know, who knows? Maybe
Being number one
it did.
consecutively like this shouldn't just change because another team has a better resume, kind of out of the blue, I'd say.
Well, Texas A&M number three. They're the highest ranked SEC team um, out of everyone, and they kind of have their first of their big games against LSU. That shouldn't be a problem, but it is on the road at night at Death Valley. Alabama number four, and we've got a comment here from Purple Avocada 101. Y'all gonna talk about Bama's turnaround after FSU. So I'll throw it to
We
you first, CJ.
we hit on that a
What do
little
you
bit, didn't
feel?
we?
We did hit a little bit on it, but overall, how do you feel about Alabama's turnaround after the FSU game? What are you seeing from Alabama?
So I'll go back to what we said after this the Florida State loss. Um we were saying that Kalen DeBoer really doesn't fit at Alabama. It's been too long. It's like a Kalen DeBoer effect of Alabama's going to lose a game they shouldn't, and then the year turned into a spiral. Well, there's still the effect of Kalen DeBoer losing a game he shouldn't have, but I think the bounce back he had has been pretty much generational. Alabama hasn't looked as good in a very long time, and I think them just rolling after like that was like more of like their wake up call type of loss, and then they've had a great year thus far after. So, I mean, there's not much to say because it's very evident in our eyes that Bama's probably, in my eyes, the best team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of what I said when kind of summarizing the Alabama and Tennessee game. They look really solid. They look like they could be the number one team in the country. Um, and I think that's true, and I believe that. But I think you also kind of have to look at how they play in games where they're expected to win. And these last four games that they've played, um, Georgia, Vandy, LSU, or and then they've played Tennessee and they've played Missouri. Those are all games that have been big, hyped up games that people haven't expected them to win. Coming into this week when they're playing South Carolina on the road, people expect them to win that game. That's where I want to see what Kalen DeBoer can do. Does he keep the same level of intensity as as they do when they play um, every other game or their big games. You look at last year when they were playing big games, they were rolling. You look at the Georgia game, they looked like one of the best teams in the country. You look at the LSU game last year, they looked like one of the best teams in the country. They were playing on the road at Death Valley, and they rolled that game. I think they won that game 40-13. And
Yeah, I mean,
so
as you see, this Alabama team, it lives for hype. But them with a no hype game, say they're playing
yeah,
like we
and
said,
so
South Carolina this next week. How do they handle business when they're playing an unranked opponent? There's no really like nothing at stake for this team.
yeah, I mean, I think you look at it and like two of their three losses, because they lost to Tennessee last year. Two of their three losses were games where they were expected to win, and so I don't think the issue with Kalen DeBoer is that he can't win big games. He's not a James Franklin type. I think that's when he gets his team the most hype, the most cranked up. I think you kind of look at how they were walking out against Tennessee, and you could really just tell that this was his team and that they were all focused on this game. But I want to see how they play against South Carolina. And they struggled against South Carolina last year at home, and so I do think this is a better team than they had last year. But I mean, you still have to take into account that they lost to Florida State, and that was a game that they were expected to win. And so yeah, I think um, overall Alabama number 4 team in the country, maybe too low of a ranking. Maybe they should be ahead of Texas A&M because I think they've looked better uh, on the eye test over Texas A&M. I mean, Texas A&M only won by 3 against Arkansas last week in a shootout. So, like,
But
I
we could
mean,
also say at the same time, SEC play is hard. I mean, it is. And there's no easy wins in the SEC. So even with next week against South Carolina, there's really just no telling. So
okay, I don't agree with that, but
see, this
I,
guy just
I
hates the
mean,
SEC, by the way.
I don't
He
hate the
hates
ACC.
no,
I
he
think
hates
it's
the
just an
SEC.
excuse when you lose games. You can just be like, oh well, in the SEC, it's just it's harder, and you play like a equivalent to Wake Forest in 2022 or in
I wouldn't say
2023. Like
that. That's a little bit
Like
low of the
that's the
bar.
like that's the same excuse that Texas pulls last week when they play
That's
Kentucky.
different.
It's
Texas is already
that's
a mid-tier SEC team. Them saying, "Hell, SEC play is hard." I mean, no, because they're like a mid-tier SEC team. I mean, that excuse that like it doesn't apply to them anymore.
I think if Alabama loses to South Carolina this week and they pull the card of every game in the SEC is tough, every game that's just a horrible excuse, and that I think like that's what I really want to see is Kalen DeBoer like winning a game that he's supposed to. Because in all of the big games that
Just
he's
handling
not
business
supposed to
like you
win,
should.
just handle business.
Yeah.
And you're not in the spot that you were in week 1. And if he handles business here, nobody's going to talk about it. But I guarantee you, if he doesn't handle business and they lose to South Carolina, who is, I mean, it's October. South Carolina's got a big. It's been a big month. They've had a bunch of big games. They've not won a single one of them. I bet they're ready to whoop up on Alabama. So I'm just saying,
I
I'm
wouldn't
not
count
saying it's
South
going to
Carolina
happen.
out.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if it does, people are going to be right back on Kalen DeBoer, like they were last year. I mean, that was the most inconsistent team I think I've ever seen in my life was last year,
I
Alabama.
feel like
But
there's no way in this world, like in this season, that Kalen DeBoer like wins in the media if he doesn't win the national championship this year. Because
I
Alabama
mean,
fans cannot be
and they
satisfied
and
with. Go
yeah,
ahead.
they're not satisfied with with anything. But it is what it is. I think, and that's the same with a lot of teams. I mean, Penn State fans who want James Franklin out. I mean, they're
I
not
mean,
happy
that's
with
a
it.
different story, though. I don't think they've won a big game. Like, name the last whiteout game that actually meant something besides this year.
Um, Played
There
Auburn a
was it
couple
was
years
it
ago.
was probably about 4 or 5 years where there was a whiteout game that just didn't really matter. They haven't
That's
won.
scheduling.
Yeah,
They
but
they
they're
always
like
have their big noon kickoff games.
yeah, but I can't think of a big game that they've won.
Next up, Oregon. or Georgia, then Oregon. Um, I'm looking to see what Oregon can do the rest of the season, but I think 6 is okay for them. Georgia moves up 4 from their big one against Ole Miss. Essentially, Georgia and Ole Miss swap spots. Ole Miss moved down to 8 instead of 9, but essentially they just swap spots for now. Georgia Tech has kind of flown under the radar, and they've moved all the way up to the 7th spot. Um, I really do think that Georgia Tech's got a favorable way to the end now that Miami's lost. I think if Miami loses another one, um, then you look at it. I think the ACC is really interesting to look at because um, you look at the conference standings, and I think people sometimes forget it's not just the two best teams rankings wise; it's the two best conference um, it's the two best conference records. And you look at the standings right now, Georgia Tech, Virginia, SMU are all tied for number one. They're all undefeated right now. And so Miami is at the middle of the pack. They are 1-1 in conference play. And so I mean, right now they're not even close to being um, in the conference championship race. I mean, obviously, as they play more games, I'm sure for SMU will at least lose one game. I'm not sure if Virginia will because there's the bottom half of the ACC is so bad, but the top half of the ACC is so good that I really think you could see maybe 2 or 3 teams from the ACC get into the playoff. That's really interesting to look at. But yeah, Georgia Tech's got a cakewalk. It feels like the rest of the way. They play Syracuse, NC State, Boston College. The Pittsburgh game is going to be really important, just to make sure they make the conference championship. But then they play Georgia. That one's going to be interesting. We'll see
We
there.
do see a world where Georgia Tech goes undefeated. Um,
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm no Georgia Tech hater. I love watching Haynes King play on Saturdays, but their strength of schedule is a little bit weak.
well, they've found ways to win.
They
They've
have.
you look at the
No
last
hate
couple
towards GT.
weeks. The last couple weeks they've. I mean, there's multiple times this season at Colorado they've won. I mean, they're really good in one possession games. They barely beat Wake Forest in overtime. They beat Duke in a closer game than what it seems like on the box score. I think Georgia Tech's a couple plays away from being 5-2, but that's a lot of the case for a lot of these teams here in the ACC. So um, I think the ACC is the most interesting conference in the playoff race, just because of how much parity is in there. Like Cal, if they win out, they can make the
There's so many different
conference
outcomes
championship.
as far as our
Like that is
these conference championships go. Um,
like that is it's crazy. It's
I look at
crazy.
the ACC and I see no set winner.
Nope. And there's a good amount of teams who can win it. Other than that, Vanderbilt top 10. I think that's the first time they've been in the top 10 since the 1950s. Um, so props to them. We'll see how long they can keep it going for because they do play Missouri this week, and that one's going to be a tough one. But we'll see. Um, BYU at number 11, they have really snuck up on a lot of people. They played their first big game, it feels like, against Utah. They beat them 24-21. Um, I haven't watched a lot of BYU film, but I do know that Bear Bachmeyer has been pretty solid, and he wears the number 47, which is really weird. But they are at the top of the Big 12. Texas Tech has fallen. They still got to play them, and I think that's going to be a big game for the Big 12 because if BYU beats Texas Tech, they're probably not going to be making the conference championship. Um, and so it's really BYU's conference to lose, it feels like, even though they really haven't played a whole lot of people. So they still have to play the two best teams, I feel like, in the Big 12. But right now, number 11, BYU's sitting pretty. The Mormons are doing their thing. Um, Notre Dame at number 12, they just got to win out. they've got to win out. If they lose another game, they're probably out of the playoffs. But right now, they're doing okay. And then, any other notable things you see from this top 25, CJ?
Yeah, just like as you just said, I want to see Notre Dame make the playoff. I can't lie. First I want to see Tennessee make the playoff, but I do want to see Notre Dame make the playoff. I feel like they just kind of got the short end of the stick with their first two games. But them winning out is very possible. It should be very easy. Other than that, I see Oklahoma's at third. Yeah, I see nothing else that like is eye popping. I do hate we dropped 6 spots though, but for the way we played, I can completely wholeheartedly understand.
Looking at it, Cincinnati's in there. I think they've been quietly moving up as well. LSU drops 10 spots for losing to Vanderbilt, which I mean, the question that I'd like to add is like, what from that performance makes you drop them 10 spots? I mean, that's the LSU that I've been watching
Their
for the last.
inconsistent offense is what I would have to pinpoint to, but I'm not the
I
committee.
mean,
I will
I mean,
say, I think USF gets this G5 spot when it's all said and done. I don't see
I,
anybody stopping USF.
something something critical that happened last week was that Memphis lost to UAB.
And
I
that
think they
gives
were,
them the G5 spot.
yeah, and there's a big game that happens this weekend where um where that
Memphis
USF
and
plays
USF.
Memphis.
Yeah.
They do play this week, and so if Memphis wins that game, then like
This could get messy, and it's
it could
at
get
Memphis
very
too.
messy. At Memphis too, that could be an interesting game. Um, we'll see.
At
Um,
12 p.m., we might have to
Ill-
tune in.
might tune in for that one.
We might have to
That
tune in.
but we'll see. But I mean, nothing else crazy that sticks out to me from this. Virginia moving up every single week, just they can't lose. If they lose another game, they're out of the playoff race. I feel like, but right now they're doing okay. So we'll see. Nothing else crazy that sticks out um, right now in the playoff race. Anything else that sticks out to you, CJ?
I think that was it for me.
Okay. All right. Well, we will move on to a big firing that happened this week. Uh, Last week, the biggest firing of the year happened. James Franklin getting fired, but this week, Billy Napier gets fired for Florida. Something that a lot of people thought should have happened last year, should have happened a long time ago, but it finally happens after a win against Mississippi State. Um, CJ, what are your thoughts on Billy Napier getting fired? And what do you think is next for Florida?
I will say this year has been very alarming. We've seen like a couple faces of college football just lose their jobs. Mike Gundy, James Franklin, now Billy Napier, just to name a few. Um, it's been pretty crazy. Now we're looking for new faces in college football, but I think it was probably about time for Billy Napier to set foot away from Florida. They haven't looked good at all. They're 3-4, ninth in the SEC. Just has been very underwhelming. I think part of his firing, or majority of it, besides the losses, is probably the development of DJ Lagway, how he hasn't looked anything like a Heisman candidate is what he was coming to the season to be. So, as the future for Florida goes, I couldn't really say like pinpoint it either north or south. I think they probably finished the season like we intended them to be. Um, I think as far as DJ Lagway's development goes for the next year, I think he should be better. But without any like leads us to another head coach, I don't really see a north or south direction for Florida.
I agree. I think this was a long time coming. I think one of the reasons why they did fire him was because of his stubbornness. Um, I think his stubbornness to always call plays, I think, led to kind of his downfall. The offense never really looked as good as it could be under Billy Napier. I think that was one of their issues. I think their defenses looked really solid over the last couple of years, but just them able to being able to recruit how they were and still not being able to execute just kind of led to his firing. And I think uh, it's sad that it's college football. That's what happens, and so I think that um, that's what needed to happen. I think looking towards Florida's future, I think this is a scrappy year, but which is unfortunate because they started top 15 in the nation. And so this was really a prove it year for Billy Napier, and it ended up um, kind of just being scrapped. And so I think names that are popping up right now that I'm hearing are Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkwitz. Those are the two big ones. And the question really is Lane
We
Kiffin going
think
to
Lane
take?
Kiffin leaves Ole Miss?
It's a possibility. I think if they fired Billy Napier last year and offered him the job, he would definitely take it. I think this year, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. So I think it's an interesting thing that we're going to look at. But I think that for a lot of college football, firing firing um, the firing's not over with, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh no, it definitely. We're going to see
No,
many faces
I
of college
think
football be gone by
yes.
the end of the year.
Florida State is, I think, definitely going to be looking towards moving on from Mike Norvell,
Mike
especially
Mike Norvell's
they
time
haven't
is
won a
up in Florida.
they haven't won a conference game since they won the ACC championship in 2023, and they've gone, I believe, what is it, 5-14 over the last 2 years. Like it's just insane how much of a one-off year that was for them last year.
It's crazy that
And then
how his fall from grace from his praise for the Alabama win, and then Nick Castellanos praise, and then now we see their loss to Virginia and just the piss hole they're in now. It's insane to see.
another question: will LSU fire um, Brian Kelly if the team has a bad loss this weekend? I think.
I think so.
Um,
I think Brian Kelly's time is up at LSU. I think it's just not a great fit. It hasn't been. Their offense has been really stagnant and really slow for the past 2 years too. So I think they go a different direction.
I mean, I think that. Shoot, I don't know. I think it's a really tough thing, but I just think it was a weird fit from the start. I think for LSU and Brian Kelly, I think you look at it and it's just it hasn't worked all that much. I think most of the success has come from the talent that has been transferred in, and it doesn't really come from Brian Kelly. It comes from Jaden Daniels, and it comes from the receivers that have already the receiving group that it kind of already has been established. And you look at a year where they still have really good weapons. I think LSU's had some really good, solid weapons this year, and Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, and they still have a solid quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier, and they just haven't been able to do anything with it. I think Brian Kelly might be, and I think if he leaves LSU and goes to somewhere else, I think it's a better fit. So, we'll see what happens. But
For both sides as well. I think Brian Kelly probably doesn't even like LSU.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's like sticking Dabo Swinney at Ohio State. It's like just it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really worked because they have not made the playoffs. They have not done anything really notable other than Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman, but that wasn't anything to do with Brian Kelly. That was all to do with Jaden Daniels. So, um, but yeah, I don't think the firing's over with. I think those are two really good people that could be fired. We'll see. I think Hugh Freeze is another guy who could definitely be in trouble. I think if they lose this weekend to Arkansas, I think he's as the kids would say cooked. As
Like you're
the
not a
professionals,
kid.
as the professionals would say, he would be fired. But we'll see with that. But the firing's not over with, and it's going to be a very interesting coaching carousel cycle this year. So we'll see. what happens all with that. But other than that, anything to add?
Think I'm, yeah, I think I'm good on that.
All right. Well, let's move on to our picks for this week. Not a huge week um, this week in terms of games. I have 12 written down that we are going to be picking this week. Last week, um, we all got the Miami game wrong. Trent got the LSU game wrong. He thought LSU was going to win. And then I boldly picked South Carolina. And that one ended up not being the right one. You know, and there were a couple other. We all picked Utah. We had no faith in BYU. Um, Texas Tech ended up getting upset.
I don't think I will ever pick Clemson for another game. Just gonna put that out there.
I don't think Clemson's getting on the board the rest of the year
Yeah,
in terms of getting a game picked. It's ridiculous how bad they've embarrassed me this year. But you know,
me as well. I mean, I've picked the Clemson Tigers solely probably for your purpose. I mean,
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, but
Really,
they're just embarrassing
my
the heck out of
your
us.
support is greatly appreciated. But we will now move on to this week. We've been hoping Trent would join us. I guess he's eating up his steak really well. You
That
know,
boy is eating the
um,
5-course meal.
so if he pops up in these next couple of minutes, we will let him pick. But you know, he'll pick off screen if not, and hopefully he'll be back next week. But we'll see. Um, but we will start off our picks this week um, with UCLA at Indiana. Notable what has happened: UCLA has gone undefeated since they have fired their coach.
They
Um,
have, but that doesn't matter. It does not matter. It
that
doesn't
does not
matter.
matter.
No, I just
So
don't think it does. Put me down for Indiana. Hey, hey,
okay,
hey, 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 hey.
okay, okay. I'm going Indiana as well. I think they've looked some of the most solid that any team's looked this entire year. I think Fernando Mendoza is going to cook the UCLA defense. But I do think it's going to be closer than some people think. Um, just because I think um, the level of offense has been picked up from UCLA over the last couple of weeks. Even though they did barely skimp out, I believe, a win against Michigan State. We'll see how they fare the rest of the year. But I think they can even make a bowl game, which is crazy from what happened the start of the year. Um, but you know, a coaching change and a play caller change is all you need um, to really switch around in football. Um, so next up, we will move on to Syracuse at Georgia Tech. CJ, who do you have in this one?
Give me Haynes King and Georgia Tech. Haynes King is such an electric watch every Saturday. He plays his balls off every single game. Him dominating the run game is going to be huge in this game as well. Syracuse's front seven is god awful. And I think they're going to have an incredible game.
All right. Um, well, I'm going to agree with you. I think Syracuse has not looked the same since Steve Angeli left. Unfortunately, Steve Angeli played against Clemson, and that's the reason we lost that game.
That's
Um,
so unfortunate, though. Prayers for Steve
but
Angeli. Great
Steve
player.
Angeli, man, what a goat! But I think Georgia Tech's going to dog walk Syracuse. Syracuse hasn't looked the same since Steve Angeli left. Um, I think that's what's going to happen there. A big game at noon. Ole Miss at Oklahoma. CJ, who do you got in this one?
Give me Ole Miss. I think there's still questions about John here. That's why I'm just not going to pick Oklahoma. I think I'll pick Ole Miss with Trinidad. Oh, excuse me.
Okay, he's picking Ole Miss. I'm going to agree with you. I think Oklahoma just has not looked that great over the last couple of weeks. Their Texas game just really kind of showed how they can be shut down offensively, and their defense really is not that great. So I think they're going to have to win this game in a shootout. I think this is the battle of two
Bad
really bad
defenses.
defenses,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be a shootout. I think though Ole Miss is going to be able to overpower Oklahoma in this one. So I'm going to go Ole Miss as well. Next up, a big game. We previewed it before when we were talking about the AP Top 25. It's USF at Memphis. CJ, who do you have in this
On
one?
the down low, this game is kind of huge for the G5 squad. I want to go with USF and Byron Brown. He hasn't played great. I will say that, but they've USF has just been finding a way to win, and for that reason, I think I'm just going to go USF, which might be kind of crazy since Memphis is at home.
All right, I'm going to agree with you here. I think that USF is going to win this one. I did not like what I saw last week when Memphis played UAB. I think UAB was a better team than they showed due to the fact that they fired their coach, Trent Dilfer. But I think that USF is still going to pull this one out and win here. If Memphis wins this one, it's going to get crazy for the group of five spot. I think that opens up a lot of different avenues later on down the line. We'll see. But that's our picks for that game. SMU at Wake Forest. CJ, who do you got here?
I'm just going to go with SMU just because of their nice win against Clemson, which isn't saying much. But I think this is the obvious pick in my eyes.
Okay. Big game here in the ACC. Wake Forest, I believe, has only one loss in the ACC. SMU undefeated.
That NC State loss.
Killer. Or no, they got two losses actually. Never mind, because they lost to Georgia Tech too. But who I think SMU is going to pull this one out barely. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think that SMU will indeed pull it out. I like Kevin Jennings, and I like their defense to kind of stuff Robbie Ashford. All right, next
Robbie
up,
Ashford's a
we
dog,
will.
though.
He is. Shout out to Robbie Ashford. Next up, Alabama at South Carolina. CJ, who do you got in this one?
I'd love to pick Lenora Sellers, and actually, I don't like the South Carolina Gamecocks at all, but I am a fan of Lenora Sellers. But Alabama should handle business this game. This is honestly a big telltale to who Kalen DeBoer really is. Can he handle business when the stakes aren't high?
Alabama should win this game, but I think they are going to win.
Yeah,
against South Carolina. I don't know. I was really wanting to pick South Carolina, but I don't think it's smart because I don't think they're going to win. But I think I've been on if South Carolina wins this game, because last week I said if you go back and watch the two people who did watch, I said Miami and Louisville was going to be a really good game, and I wanted to pick the upset there, but I did not. I picked Miami. I mean, if you go back, I wanted to pick. I just want to go back and look here. I wanted to pick. Who did I pick? I wanted to pick Washington. I've wanted to pick a bunch of these upsets. If this one doesn't go, if South Carolina wins this game, I'm going to be so mad because I told you so. I think South Carolina could pull off the upset, but we'll see. I'm going to pick Alabama. CJ, who do you think is going to win between Missouri and Vanderbilt? That's another big game. That's where game day is going to be this week. So who do you think?
That is where game day is going to be this week. Really exciting. Give me Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Okay. I just said all this good stuff about Vanderbilt like 40 minutes ago.
You said what?
And I'm going to pick Missouri. I'm going to pick Missouri.
Gosh.
I'm going to pick Missouri. I think Missouri has a better offense than LSU. I think if you look at it, Vanderbilt has a good defense, but not a top 10, not a top 15. And something that they've struggled against is stopping the run. I think Ahmad Hardy is going to have a good game against Vanderbilt. I think if you look at it, Missouri against running quarterbacks and quarterbacks who are very mobile, they've been able to shut them down pretty well. And when Diego Pavia gets shut down in the run game, he gets shut down throwing the ball. And so I think if all that comes together, I know it's on the road, um, but I do like Missouri in this game. And I think if Missouri wins, then my pick is right. And if Vanderbilt wins, I win because I want Vanderbilt to win. But I think Missouri's going to win here. So
That's how you
that's
gotta
my
look
pick.
at some of these. I can't lie. It's like a
So,
win-lose sometimes.
all right. Next up, we've got BYU at Iowa State. Who do you got here, CJ?
Give me BYU. My 11th ranked BYU freaking dang.
I am going
What are they
to
called?
pick BYU Cougars.
Yeah. I don't know why I wanted to call them something
We are both going
religious.
to pick the BYU Cougars here. I think they will pull this one out, but it's the Big 12. You never know what's going to happen on a week-to-week basis. So we'll see.
Very bad conference.
Next up, maybe the most exciting game of the week, Minnesota at Iowa. CJ, who do you got here? Very high
Damn it.
scoring.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Let me just pick Minnesota.
Ooh.
You know
Minnesota
their
coming off.
DN? I forget their DN's name. Top 5 DN in the nation. He is so good. I forget his name, but I'm a fan. So
Minnesota beat Nebraska last week, and I think they're going to beat Iowa here. I don't like Iowa's offense. I don't think Mark Gronowski has thrown a touchdown pass since the second week of the year or the third week of the year. I'm not sure, but it's
I
been
don't
over a
think they
month.
can block Minnesota's D line scheme.
Like their offense, I think it's going to be low scoring though. We'll see, but I do like Minnesota in this one. Next up, we've got Michigan at Michigan State. CJ, who do you got here?
Give me Michigan. Not much to say.
Here, Michigan, I think, is going to plow through Michigan State here. And I don't really, like you kind of said, I don't think there's a whole lot to add to that one. Of course, that's probably going to be the game that Michigan State ends up winning. But, it is
Yeah,
what.
after we so confidently picked Michigan, Bryce
Yeah,
Underwood's going to throw like 5 picks and 3 pick
it is
sixes.
what it is. Next up, Houston at Arizona State. Who do you got here, CJ?
Whenever I picked against Arizona State, I always lose. And it's like Sam Levitt comes on this podcast and listens just to get motivation. So let's go with ASU. Over there in Tempe, Arizona.
I would be inclined to pick. I would be inclined to pick Houston, but I did not like what I saw against Texas Tech for them, and that's been really their only competition they've played all this year. And so from that, I do like what Arizona State has done. They beat Texas Tech. Granted, they were down Baron Morton, but I do like Arizona State in this one. So now that'll bring us to our last game of the slate, and that one is Texas A&M at LSU. CJ, who do you got here?
Give me A&M. LSU cannot move the ball whatsoever. And for that sole purpose, I'm going to choose A&M.
A big prove it game since the Notre Dame game from Texas A&M. I do think they're going to pull this one out. I don't like what I see offensively from LSU, and I think if they really want to make the playoffs, this is a game that they can win here. If they lose, it's going to be a big climb upwards for them. But we will see how they fare in that one. But that will do it here for us. CJ, any final thoughts from the week?
Thanks for everybody who tuned in. It's always fun.
And then thank you. Make sure if you're watching, leave your comments. We might pull them up here as we're going through it. Thank you for leaving comments and stuff. Thank you for watching. Make sure to go tune in to the Instagram. and TikTok. We're going to be trying to post more on those. I'm trying to post more videos on this YouTube channel too. Thank you for getting us up in the subscriber count. Make sure to stay tuned because we will be trying to put more videos out. So thank you for that. Make sure to just follow us everywhere, and thank you for watching. And we will see you next time, next week, and hopefully we will have all three with us that week. So um,
Hopefully.
we will see you then. Peace out.